was no Brock Purdy hype train last August. And it's one of the things that's good news for Trey Lance, which is normally football fans, right? They're not all people like us. We're not all embedded and just totally dialed in on roster building. How many QB3s could you name?
That's 3 or 4.
Can you?
I'd be hard-pressed, but yeah.
So start with, whether you want to call it, I'm not going to make assumptions here, whether it's Trey Lance or Sam Darnold.
Sure.
I think it's Trey. But name
I
another
know
one.
Mason Rudolph is a QB3.
Okay, good.
With Trubisky's is 2. And Mason Rudolph, I believe, is still QB3.
I think you're right, but I don't even know how they're shaking that up.
And
but you're right.
That's to your point. You got to Google it.
I could name 3 Steelers QBs. Can you name any more?
Man, I know that John Wolford is still a Rams, but I don't know if he's QB2 or QB3.
Think that he is.
He's no longer a Rams?
I don't think that he is.
Damn, you miss a week.
Yeah, Grandy, where's Wolford now? Where's that guy? Where'd he go? I saw him running around.
The fact that Grandy has to Google it tells us all we need to know.
He's the third stringer in Tampa now, behind Baker and Trask.
Well, there you go.
Which means
there you go.
He may start.
You said name a QB3. He is a QB3.
He is yes, that is
somewhere
correct.
He's a QB3.
Gotta know where though. So that's kind of my 2 takeaways on this. Look, I don't think Trey Lance looked very good. I think he had a nice run on those last 2 drives, and that's awesome. It's awesome. I think it's a huge step forward. It's an improvement from the game against the Raiders. We all knew he had a strong arm. So the fact that he can show zip on his passes is great. However, I don't care. This is one thing we got to stop doing with the whole. But Trey has talent. Your talent in this league does not matter. Or you need to adjust what you refer to as talent. Trey Lance has some legs, don't quite work maybe the way we thought they did, but they still work.
But worked better on Saturday.
Yeah, and he's got a zippy arm, and that means nothing in the NFL. The NFL is 2 things. You have to know where to deliver the ball, and then you have to do it accurately. That's it. That's it. Chad Pennington could barely throw the ball 25 yards. He was successful in the NFL.
For a while.
As a quarterback. Yeah, but successful.
He got hurt, though.
He did. But do you know what I mean? Like this whole...
Jeff George is the classic example.
Thank you.
Huge arm.
He could throw the ball through a wall, and he was terrible. Jamarcus Russell, he could throw it 70 yards from his knees. Great. If he's on his knees, he's down. It doesn't do anything for anybody. Where to deliver the ball, and can you do it accurately? And in those last 6 throws, Trey started to do that. So he gets credit. He absolutely gets credit. You cannot erase the fact that in the first 3 drives or whatever it was, that was not good quarterbacking. So step forward, yes.
Sure.
Absolutely. But I'm also with you. Sam Darnold, maybe he bores you to tears and you're worried about his resume. He was better. And he's QB2, if you ask me.
And yeah, if you ask the Niners, I think that they already know that he's QB2, and now it's a question of, not only what can you do for Trey Lance for the sake of him being QB3 or maybe QB2 minus, but maybe there is the thought that a team out there might want to give up some draft capital to bring in Trey Lance if, in fact, the Niners decide to move off him. We don't yet know. It feels more and more like Brandon Allen's going to get cut. He's not even getting any... He's not getting any time in practice. He's not getting the reps in the games. It feels like he's going to be a victim of this 4-quarterback shuffle, which is fine. Nobody's going to cry their eyes out over Brandon Allen getting, $200,000 to go away. They paid Nate Sudfeld last year a guaranteed deal to not play. So it comes down to preseason game number 3, which I think is Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. That is correct.
So Trey Lance
we're already on the we're
it's game
coming
week,
up already.
Right? So, and I wonder how they break down the reps in terms of Trey Lance, because if you do believe that Sam Darnold is the 2, then you wouldn't even really need to play him at all. Give Trey Lance all the experience that he needs after Brock Purdy and the ones get their time.
I get that. It sounds like Purdy starts. I wonder what they'll do after that. If they are using it as a true sort of dress rehearsal and they think Darnold is the 2, maybe he comes in next. I do think you're right that right now Trey Lance needs these preseason games more than anybody else does. So maybe that sort of tips the scales. Maybe they want to get Brandon Allen some more time and they move through all 4 of them. I don't know. Like, I've sort of decided I'm with you. Like, this whole idea of a roster spot for Trey is kind of wild to me. If Trey is not traded by the 49ers, he will be on the 49ers.
Of course.
Like, he is either QB3 or he's somebody else's QB2 or whatever. Like, I now think that this is sort of the definition of it, right? Brock Purdy, obviously, is your starting quarterback. Sam Darnold was brought in to be the 2, and he will be. Trey Lance will be the 3 unless he's traded, and if he's traded, Brandon Allen will be the 3. And that's kind of my view now on what Brandon Allen is doing here. Brandon is here in case the 49ers can find a trade for Trey Lance. And if not, then Trey Lance is the 3, and that's great. You know, and no, I don't mean it in a large sense. It's not like the great return on investment you're hoping for. But I hope that Trey Lance is the 3. I hope he's still on the team. They do become, in my opinion, the deepest quarterback room in the NFL. It's not the best. It's the deepest.
Right, and you have needed depth here in San Francisco every year but one.
Yep.
You've relied on that depth, and when you didn't have that depth, then you struggled, and your season was usually lost when you didn't have that depth. So you'll have it now, and if something happens to Brock and you go to Sam, and then if something happens to Sam, you've got Trey, and you feel like that should be good enough with the personnel you've got around him. And, you know, Brock Purdy in that opening series, he looked fine. Brock didn't do anything remarkable. He did everything efficiently, but you look around and it was like, damn, Debo and the O-line
Sure.
you know, boom. And, you know, they had TDP in the backfield. They didn't even have McCaffrey. You didn't even have Big Trent over there at left tackle. And still, they marched down the field against Denver.
Yeah, I actually was very comforted by what I saw in that opening series. Not because Brock did anything that stood out too much.
Right.
He went out and he looked like Brock. And so that's very comforting. On 2 levels, I love that drive. A, it was live action for Brock Purdy. He even took a couple of hits. He ran with the ball a couple of times. You got to get those hits out of the way, and they did. And the second thing is, when they played Vegas, I think 49er fans came out of there going, oh, my God, we got problems in this position group. We got problems here. And it's like, no, you didn't. The 49ers weren't on the field. That was the 49ers, and they looked like the 49ers, and they went right down the field. And it sort of settled my stomach in terms of the idea that, right, I forgot. The 49ers are going to be really good this year. And that I think is a great reminder, because somewhere along the road here over these next 20 days, we have got to work our way out of screaming and yelling about number 14 and number 5 and number 13 and this, that, and the other, and how it came to be, and drafts and race and resumes, all of it. Get it out of there and just go, the 49ers are going to be really good.
Yeah.
They're going to be a really good football team.
I think cutdown day is the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a week from tomorrow. So once you get to that point, then the official depth chart will come out, and whatever it means in terms of the 2 and the 3 and quarterbacks, you can then look at the 53-man roster and start to drool, and then you can realize, Mark, just how good this team is. And you saw a little piece of it on Saturday. Not all the ones played, but enough of the ones played to where you can see, like, yeah, Brock, Sam, Trey, not that it doesn't matter, but it matters less, I think, than it does for other teams, because everyone around them is so good.
Yeah, 888-957-9570. We'd love to hear from you on this. And I think the question that we're all sort of playing with today, and it's what we just did in the crossover, because different eyes will see different things. What'd you see from Trey Lance? And you don't have to boil it down to one word, but I will. What'd you see from Trey Lance? Improvement.
Yeah.
Improvement. And that's great. That's great. I'm not going to call Saturday's performance great or even good. There were tons of mistakes in there, things that are not NFL level. But those last 2 drives in quote-unquote, air quotes, pressure, at least there was a clock, right? There's a clock in your head. And he succeeded with that. He had some good reads. He let it rip, as Kyle's been asking him to do. There was some accuracy with those throws. Some of them were downfield. That is all wonderful to see. That's great. So that's the word I'm going to use, improvement. 888-957-9570. We'll hear what you think. This is interesting, though. YouTube and Twitch, as always, we love the chats there and the video feed. Good afternoon. We've got a poll running here on 95.7 The Game on our YouTube feed. Who is currently leading the competition at backup QB? Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, or Brandon Allen? Now, those of you who voted for Brandon, you're just trolling.
Right.
4% of you are just messing around with this. What do you think the split is, though, the rest of the way between Trey and Sam on a YouTube feed?
65-35 Trey.
You freaking nailed it.
Really?
Except for that you forgot Brandon Allen's 4.
Oh, and
so it's 65-31.
And then 4 for Brandon
Trey
Allen.
Lance is leading the competition at backup QB.
Man, going to be a lot of disappointed people in a week.
Yeah.